Hello and welcome to the Why Wasn't It Better podcast. I am your host, Patrick Darms.
And I'm your co-host, Anton Paras.
And this is one of our in-between season episodes. Think of it as a bonus as you wait the excruciatingly long 1 week between seasons 9 and the upcoming season 10. Today, we are continuing something that we kind of do intermittently, the worst Best Picture winner series. And since it is Oscar season upon us, Anton, I decided that we should cover another alleged worst Best Picture winner with The English Patient.
Ooh, excellent choice.
Yes. It is impossible to talk about The English Patient without talking about the year that it won, because 1996 is one of the strangest Oscar lineups of the modern era. Outside of Jerry Maguire, no major studio was represented in the Best Picture category. There were no real blockbusters, no franchises, just prestige films, indies, and adult dramas operating on an entirely different wavelength. And The English Patient didn't just win, it dominated. 9 wins out of 12 nominations, the defining prestige film of a moment when the Academy briefly turned its back on commercial Hollywood. Or did it? On this episode of Why Wasn't It Better, we are revisiting The English Patient not as a punchline or an Oscar villain, but as a product of a very specific era, one where ambition, patience, and formal elegance were still rewarded. And we are asking whether this film has actually become underrated with time. The English Patient was released on November 15th, 1996 by Miramax Films. It was written for the screen and directed by Anthony Minghella, based on the novel by Michael Ondaatje, starring Ralph Fiennes, Kristen Scott Thomas, Juliette Binoche, Willem Dafoe, Naveen Andrews, Colin Firth, and Julian Wadham. The budget was $43 million, adjusted for inflation, that is $88 million, and the box office was, get a load of this, Anton, $232 million, adjusted for inflation, that is $480 million. It has an 86% Rotten Tomatoes score, and for a brief plot synopsis, the sweeping expanses of the North African desert are the setting for a passionate love affair in this adaptation of Michael Ondaatje's Booker Prize-winning novel. A badly burned man, Count Laszlo de Amalfi, is tended to by a nurse, Hannah, in an Italian monastery near the end of World War II. His past is revealed through flashbacks involving a married Englishwoman and his work mapping the African landscape. Hannah learns to heal her own scars as she helps the dying man. The film's tagline is, "In love, there are no boundaries."
Sorry, that's great.
Yeah, pretty cheesy.
I mean, no, it's just like, in love, adultery. Adultery ain't being stopped when love's around.
It's true. It is would you say a cheesy but apt tagline for this film's plot?
Yeah, just sprinkle some things in there about like being able to seek out bombs in the desert and you're good.
Why'd we choose this movie, Anton?
Well, you already set us up very well in the intro of the episode. This is in that category of worst Best Picture winner. Now, of course, we dissect and say, well, does it deserved? But hey, it was also the 90s, right, Pat? And I mean, what can you tell us about the 90s in film?
Well, I don't know. That's a very open-ended question on your part. I mean, there's a lot of things I could tell you about the 90s. It is when I came into my own as a moviegoer. 1996 in particular was a heck of a movie year. I saw a lot of movies in theaters. The top 10 highest grossing films of the year, I saw 8 of them in the theater. Independence Day, Twister, Mission Impossible, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, 101 Dalmatians, The Nutty Professor, Jerry Maguire, and Space Jam. I lied. I saw 7 of them. I did not see Jerry Maguire, Ransom, or The Rock.
But you did eventually.
Oh, of course I did eventually. And I, of course, eventually saw this film, The English Patient, although not until I was in high school. But what can I tell you about the 90s?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I'll spin my take. Like, the 90s have forever molded my view of like what great films should look like, especially if they warp my young mind on who are the greats, looking at them from like a young lens. So I always have a fond spot for the 90s. I'm a 90s kid through and through. And I think you'll agree with me. It's really fun to be able to go back to films that you watched as a kid or you remember going to theaters for back in the day and they still hold up. I didn't see this one as a kid, but
No.
1996, there are a lot of films on that list where, oh man, like that is a great year for film.
It really is. And this is no small part of it. I mean, I came to appreciate this film much later because obviously this would not have been on 8-year-old Patrick's radar.
Mm.
It is perhaps best known for the Seinfeld episode, which lampoons it. And, you know, over the years, the reason why we're covering this as a worst best picture winner is not necessarily because we feel that way, but because if you look up worst best picture winners, this is always on the list. This is frequently on overrated film lists, I noticed.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because by all metrics, this is one of the most successful films of the 90s. I mean, I said the box office numbers. I didn't realize it made that much money. That is a tremendous amount of money for what is essentially an art house film with a couple of well-known actors in it. I mentioned it dominated at the Oscars. Some perspective for you. It didn't just dominate. It's in pretty rare territory. There are only 2 other films who have won 9 awards in one night, Gigi and The Last Emperor. So not bad. And of course, the other noteworthy piece to this film, which probably people will not like to hear, is that this was a major achievement for Miramax Films, the Weinstein's production company. This was really the beginning of their Academy Award dominance. This was the first of their films to win Best Picture. It had been founded way back in 1979 by the Weinsteins. It was an indie production company, primarily a distributor, and they did what many indie distributors would do throughout the 80s. A lot of low budget stuff. They had a major breakthrough in 1993 when they were acquired by Disney for, I read, only $60 million. That's a bargain for Disney.
Yeah, it's a bargain. Still a lot back then.
A lot, but for a
not
production company, you'd think it would be more.
Mm-hmm.
1994, they get their big breakthrough with Pulp Fiction, but this is really where their dominance started, and it would continue well into the 2000s. I think anytime you talk about the name Harvey Weinstein, and if he's associated with a film, there's always going to be some degree of backlash. Understandably so. But I thought this one would be fun to cover.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fun to cover, and it hurts my soul that there are so many people that hate on this film because of a Seinfeld episode. I can't state that enough because those same people, I'm convinced, have not watched this movie.
I agree with you. Anytime someone tells me that they don't think much of this film, I would always challenge them, like, when's the last time you saw it? Now, just like anything else, it's not everyone's cup of tea. This is a demanding film to watch, to get through. Mm-hmm. This is not the type of film I would say you could just pop on and watch a 20-minute chunk of it, at least not for me. It's a film that if I were to watch it again, which I would want to watch it from the beginning all the way to the end. Quick sidebar for you. Now, this film is not a sequel, but most people, I don't think, realize that the novel, The English Patient, is actually a sequel to another one of Michael Ondaatje's works called In the Skin of a Lion. The English Patient, the novel, continues the story of a couple of the characters, particularly Hannah and Caravaggio. Now, again, not really relevant to this film, but I thought it worth bringing up because if you like this film and you want to check out the book, I would recommend some of his other works, including In the Skin of a Lion. And yeah, this is also the upcoming 30th anniversary of this film, another reason to cover it.
Yeah. Well, it's a treat. Great season intermittent or between season episode.
Yeah, a little bonus, a little gem for the listeners. Before I'll have you read the production history, we can't overlook the 6 degrees of Warren Beatty's sex life, which is the theory that all films can be connected through the sexual conquests of the one and only Warren Beatty. This one's pretty straightforward. We have Willem Dafoe, who is in this film. He was in a film called Body of Evidence with Madonna, which, if you want an erotic thriller, there's one for you. Madonna, of course, famously dated Warren Beatty in 1990. It was his last major relationship before he met and married Annette Bening in 1992. So Madonna clearly had an effect on him, as you and I talked about with Garrett on our Dick Tracy episode.
Yeah, he didn't tear through the 90s like I guess people would have expected, but...
Well, if I may, having read his biography written by Peter Biskind, he did put in a lot of work in between Madonna and
between
Annette Bening.
Like,
Yeah,
what is
I
it?
kind of, my theory, my takeaway from this, reading it in the book, is that I think he knew that he wanted to settle down, so he decided to just go on like a bender.
A bang bender.
A bang bender, yes. Like one of the women was Stephanie Seymour, the girl from the Guns N' Roses videos, just one of several. And of course, if you want to see the actual effect that Madonna had on Warren Beatty, you can literally see it unfold in the Truth or Dare documentary, the Madonna one. You can see how visibly annoyed Beatty is by all of her antics, you know, because she's in the throes of fame. She's, and he's just kind of over it all.
She was doing anything for the camera.
She was.
She
Look,
wants
more
that
power
attention.
to her. She's made a boatload of money from it. But yeah, that's it for the Warren Beatty update.
Well, ready for our production history. Almasi was a real person. Michael Ondaatje's 1992 novel sold well and won the Booker Prize, and it was an odd choice for an adaptation. Many in the industry considered it unfilmable. It shifted perspectives and time periods constantly, had no straightforward plot, and relied heavily on interior monologue and sensory language. Producer Saul Zaentz, originally a two-time Oscar winner for co-producing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Amadeus, had wanted to work with director Anthony Minghella after seeing his 1990 film Truly Madly Deeply. We've talked about Zaentz before when we covered the 1978 animated Lord of the Rings.
So he only produced like 10 films, and three of them won Best Picture.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Not so good with the animated Lord of the Rings, but...
Yeah, that'll haunt you forever.
Yeah, you can't always bat 1,000.
Minghella fell in love with the book and spent years writing the screenplay himself before bringing the project to Zaentz. And originally 20th Century Fox was the studio behind the project, but according to Zaentz, they kept wanting to cast stars that he and Minghella saw as unfit for the film, such as Demi Moore for the role of Catherine.
All right, pause.
Yes.
How much worse would this have been with Demi Moore in it?
It would have been incredibly, many levels worse.
I think this is a win-win, including for her, because if she were in this film, she would not have taken the starring role in Striptease.
Which would have been terrible for America.
Right. Did you ever read how much they paid her for that?
No, I don't know the number, but imagine she got paid very well.
Guess the amount in 1996 dollars. I'll give you a hint. It would be a lot now.
50 million.
No, not that much.
20 million.
25.
Okay.
No wonder she did it.
Yeah. So she made... So she did 20... She got 25. So equivalent of 50 million, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Smart.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying this as a joke. Like, this is a very smart move on her part.
Yeah, no, very smart. And as we continue, the film was actually canceled, as Fox pulled out 3 weeks before production was set to commence, and Daniel Day-Lewis turned down the role of Almasi. Enter Harvey Weinstein in Miramax.
Here we go.
I'd rather not enter Harvey Weinstein.
Well,
Sorry.
Are you conflicted on this like I am? Like, he is responsible for a lot of great films. Obviously, a deplorable person.
Yeah, I think this is very much like a separate, it's not like he directed these films. It's not like there are large crews completely separate that are a part of these films. With that said, say what you want about him, but he honored Minghella's original choices for the cast: Kristen Scott Thomas and Ralph Fiennes. Ooh, Mr. Hot Man in the 90s.
He's hot in this film, that's for sure.
Yeah.
My wife remarked on that like 3 times when we were watching it. She's like, I didn't realize Ralph Fiennes was this hot. Like, I think he's always been this hot.
Yeah, he's always had a very distinguished look to him, but especially when you do the opening shot where he's map drawing. I think he's drawing the sand, but then you pan to his you pan to his profile,
and it's just they lit him well. Let's just say they lit him well.
It's like, is that an Oasis or is that Ralph Fiennes? Bruce Willis was offered and wanted the role of David Caravaggio, but was talked out of it by his then agent, who said thumbs are important.
Thumbs are fingers, which is a question that's asked in this film. And we'll try to answer that later. I
Yeah.
personally think that they are.
I think that they are also. What do you know? To help the film get made, cast and crew agreed to salary deferrals totaling $10 million, and Zayn spent the remainder of the production costs. This ended up slightly backfiring because after several years, some folks were still waiting to be paid. And in 2006, Zayn actually sued Miramax for allegedly not paying him what he was owed, and at the time of his death in 2014, the dispute was still unresolved. And that sucks.
Oh, Harvey.
The film was shot on location in Italy and Tunisia. Michael Ondaatje worked closely with Minghella and the crew during production. He would end up writing a book called The Conversations, Walter Murch and the Art of Editing Film, based on his conversation with the film's editor, Walter Murch. And with that, Pat gives us the close-up view of the novel. So
yes,
definitely check it out.
If any of the listeners are any bit interested in filmmaking or the editing process, it is a great read. And Walter Murch, we'll talk about him a little bit later. He's kind of like the John Williams of film editors.
Yeah. Storied, right?
Yeah.
This was the first major film in the industry to be edited digitally. And Minghella and Weinstein clashed over the final cut of the film. Weinstein loved the film's prestige potential, but feared it was too long, too slow, and too poetic for mainstream audiences. Minghella's first assembly ran nearly 3 hours and 40 minutes. It was meditative, nonlinear, and closer to Ondaatje's novel. Weinstein began pressing him to cut entire sequences and simplify the structure. While the budget was quite large for what is essentially an art film, it proved to be a huge hit at the box office. That is our production history. And before we go into our meat of the episode, I did want to cue a promo.
As always, we want to thank everyone for listening. If you're liking the podcast and you haven't already done so, please hit that follow or subscribe button. We encourage you to leave comments wherever you're listening or watching. You can follow us on the major social media platforms, Instagram, X, and best of all, Letterboxd, where you can see our full list of films that we intend to cover. And if you really like what we're doing and you want to throw a few dollars our way, we do have a Patreon. You can support the show there and get access to episodes a full week early and ad-free, plus some bonus content. Links to all of the aforementioned are in the description.
Boom, 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 boom. Well, like the soaring and sweeping hills of the desert that we are able to just fully entrance ourselves into this storyline, let's go ahead and navigate through the path of each of these sections of why wasn't it better. With our first reason, Pat, what is our first reason today on why The English Patient wasn't better, or at least perceived to be?
I want to ask you a question, Anton, because the main criticism that you will often hear about this film is that it's boring. Elaine Bennis said it was boring in that famous Seinfeld episode. I have heard people describe this film as boring. Do you think it is boring?
I will counter that Elaine thought that she had rabies.
Right.
Yeah.
She also didn't know that poppy seeds could cause you to fail a drug test.
Elaine also pined over a gym instructor who she couldn't tell if actually liked her or not.
It's true.
I'm trying to come down to the conclusion that Elaine shouldn't be your go-to for film criticism.
Nor should an episode of a hilarious 90s sitcom.
Satirical 90s sitcom, right? So,
yeah.
I think it's a fair question, just in the sense that this kind of film isn't everyone's cup of tea, right?
Yeah, I think similarly to a film that we covered as I think our first worst Best Picture winner, Out of Africa, with a very similar runtime, maybe even the exact same runtime of 160 minutes. It is not a fast-paced film. I think it's a pretty demanding watch in some respects. It is not what I would call a entertaining film, although I think there are entertaining moments in it. You could make the case that it doesn't need to be 160 minutes, although I would not have cut out anything from this. I don't think it's boring.
I think that it's a very mature film, and just like any mature film, there has to be patience. That's my take.
English patience? Or any kind of patience?
Any kind of patience.
Depending on where you live.
I mean, it's the way the film is, the way that the film is presented, right? Non-linearly. But even then, I feel like it's so tough that if someone goes in already with a perception of like, oh, I've heard it's a bad film, it can almost feel like, I feel like that already ruins the taste a bit for someone going into the film.
Yeah. Now, that's easier said than done. When you hear a lot about a film, that prejudice can be difficult to overcome. And I have to say, sort of to play devil's advocate a bit, this is not a film that I could watch regularly.
I mean, I think that, I agree with you. But at the same time, I feel like there's so many aspects of the film that still it's still very entertaining. The dialogue is still so human. So for me to say it was boring, like I don't, it's not a fair statement, because it's not, to me, that's not true. The film itself opens with a pretty horrific scene, right?
It does. Our hero of the film, who you can't really even call a hero. I mean, anti-hero, I guess, would be the best way to describe him.
Yeah.
Ray Fiennes is playing Count Laszlo de Almashi. There's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't like him. I mean, he pretty much betrays everyone and everything that he cared about to claim a woman who wasn't his to begin with, a married woman who he was having an affair with. Throughout the course of the film, I feel like we learn a bit about Almashi, but also really nothing about him. Like, what does he stand for? What does he care about?
We know he's a count.
We know that he is a map maker.
He's wealthy.
He's probably wealthy. We don't really know, though.
Let's be fair. If the dude has a plane and he can just be across the world,
it wasn't his plane.
Well, he can be a map maker. He's wealthy.
I assume he was wealthy. Yeah,
he's a count.
He is a learned man. He is a polyglot. He speaks a bunch of different languages. He can recall every single song. He seems to have a photographic memory for music. Very selfish. Him and the woman who ends up being his lover, Catherine, they put themselves above everyone else. They put their love, they put their affair above everyone else. They betray the loyalty of many. They betray the friendship. She betrays her husband. He betrays the friendship of really everyone that he knows, including kind of the unseen tragedy of this film is that, his friend Maddox ends up committing suicide.
So sad.
Right. And, I completely forgot about Maddox because I hadn't seen this film in a long time. Maddox is a much bigger character. He's doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. He's played by an actor named Julian Wadham, who I would assume is a more well-known actor in the UK. I'm not familiar with his work. But did this remind you of Dr. Zhivago?
A lot of similarities, mainly the adultery.
Yeah, a very selfish, unethical romance where you kind of end up not really liking the characters. And I think it's a cynical, quite a nasty love story. In a way, right? In a way. It is certainly very passionate, and I think the two actors here do a wonderful job of bringing that passion to the screen. I think they have very good chemistry together. Do you think that hurts the film, though?
I think that, like, the character, the main character not being the most, not being the most moral guy, I don't think it does.
I don't
think it. I don't think it.
I don't either. I think it asks a lot of you because this is a very atypical romance film.
Yeah, it's a very mature film, and it's not like it's presented in a typical way, like you said, and it takes a lot of nuance to be able to digest what's occurring, as the other characters also digest the situation.
I have to say, on the last rewatch, I found myself much more interested and invested in the other romance in this film, kind of the B plot between Hannah and Kip. Now, obviously, it's easy to be more invested in this because they are much more likable characters. They are far easier to root for.
Kip's just doing his job.
He is. Kind of, I guess he's the closest thing to a hero we have in the film, considering his job, right?
Yeah, no, he's dedicated. He's
sapper.
Oh yeah, capable sapper.
Did you pick up that he was an officer? I didn't realize that until the last rewatch.
I did not.
Yeah, he's like a captain in the British Army.
Yeah, they're much easier to root for as a couple. But this isn't about, I think, like which couple we should root for. Like you said, this is a very layered film.
It is, and although Ray Fiennes is playing the titular English patient, you could very reasonably make the case that Hannah is the central character of the film.
Hannah is learning from the patient, of course. And I think that the film also presents itself in a way that you realize that he is dealing with the repercussions of his decisions, right? Like, it's not like and then he went on to just enjoy indulging in the moment. It's like, no, like, very heavy repercussions of his actions.
They're very different films, but when we reviewed Presumed Innocent late last year with Jay, this got me thinking about kind of like Harrison Ford's character in that film. Almashi basically ruins the lives of every person he knows in this story. All of his friends, certainly Catherine, certainly her husband. He doesn't ruin Hannah's life at all, but she was already damaged. He doesn't do much to help her other than tells a very memorable story, makes her cry.
Yeah, I mean, tells a very memorable story, pushes her to, like, euthanize him.
Yeah, that's the only redemption he gets, right? Is he essentially euthanizes himself, or he gets Hannah to do it for him. But he doesn't have any redemption at all. Not really. He certainly regrets his actions, but
I think his conversation with Caravaggio is enough of a, like, I'm just going to walk away from this moment.
Oh, that it's hard to say what the best acting in the film is, but when Caravaggio is pressing him on, he's like, "What about the Cliftons? Did you kill them?" And he says, "What does he say?" He's like, "Maybe
yeah.
I did."
Yeah, the makeup throughout. Jeez,
it's both good and bad makeup.
Yeah, I'll say this: his hair does grow pretty consistently, but I don't know if that's consistent with the burns that he received.
You mean the Freddy Krueger-esque appearance?
Yeah.
That's what the first thing it reminded you of, right? Freddy Krueger?
Well, remember, it evolves a bit, because then there was someone in the desert putting something in his face.
Oh, he gets found by that tribe?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they were Bedouin. I forget which tribe. I don't know if they actually say the tribe name, but...
Yeah. What, do we know what they put on his face?
I don't. It's some kind of ointment. Some natural remedy, I would assume. I guess it helped slightly.
Scorpion venom.
Look, I would say this film, I can understand why this would turn a lot of people off. This is certainly indulgent. That's the word I kept writing down when I was, compiling my notes on the last rewatch. It's like eating lasagna as an appetizer, followed by like braised beef ribs and mashed potatoes in a red wine sauce, and then it's like, can I give you some chocolate cake at the end? It's like, it's a lot. What did I say earlier? I couldn't eat that meal all the time.
Served by Harvey Weinstein.
Served by Harvey Weinstein in a tuxedo as he's accepting another Academy Award. Although no, he didn't win an Academy Award for this. He was just pulling the strings in the background, like Richard Gere in Chicago, saying they both reached for the gun. They both reached for the Oscar.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, I think I'm just partial to this kind of story in a way, Anton. Not necessarily the unlikability of the two leads, but
the World War II aspect.
I do, yeah, because you get like a little hybrid here, right? You could classify this as a World War II film. It is, but you also, part of the story is pre-war in kind of an era and a setting that is not widely represented in film, which is pre-World War II Saharan Africa.
Yeah, the African front of the war is much more explored in games like Battlefield 1942.
Right. I wrote down, back in the day when maps were valuable commodities and morphine grew on trees.
Yeah.
How much morphine do you think she injects into Almashi during the course of this?
What is that, a liter?
Did you have questions about the timeline of this film?
It wasn't clear, I'll tell you that. But it probably was like, I mean, based on his condition and the amount of morphine he was getting and the medical technology of the time, it couldn't have been very long, right?
Well, I don't know, because, we can talk about this now then. So, again, this is not something I picked up on at first. It was like on the last rewatch. I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. So the film, you would agree, it ends right after the Germans surrender in May of 1945.
Right.
That's when the film ends. That's when the flashbacks get completed. But his flashback, his story, Almashi's story ends when his plane is shot down by the Germans in Africa, right?
Right.
So the Germans were driven out. I had to look this up because I didn't know the exact date, but the Germans were driven out of North Africa in May of 1943. So it's like this film is telling us that he was in that monastery telling his story for 2 years.
Yeah, that doesn't really add up to me.
It doesn't. I even fact checked this on ChatGPT. I'm like, does this make sense? And they're like, oh yeah, his story definitely could have taken 2 years to tell. I'm like, what?
Yeah, no, that's ChatGPT being agreeable.
Because how long does it seem like they're at the monastery for? Like a few weeks, maybe a month? Like
I was gonna say like a few weeks for a month as it's presented in the film.
right.
But like if you told me like this happened over the course of like a week and a half, like that feels much more appropriate, like to his condition.
Right, because Kip and the other sappers who are like camping outside, which is funny, they're pitching tents outside of a monastery. They don't stay in the monastery for whatever reason. So you think realistically they're an active military unit in an active war zone. They're not going to be camped out there for 2 years.
Makes no sense.
It doesn't. Now, does that detract from the film? I think kind of slightly.
If you think about it hard enough,
it does not make sense.
It's yeah. I think it does add a little bit of a sour flavor, but you know, I think we can forgive it.
So we've heard about the backlash against this film, right? And I wouldn't say there's been a critical backlash against it. It seems to be internet public type of backlash. Just think, if this had come out 30 years before and been directed by David Lean, I think it'd be considered one of the all-time great films.
It's very Lean-esque.
Minus the sex stuff.
Yeah, minus the sex stuff.
But that was just due to a censorship thing. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't have put that above Lean or below Lean. You know what I mean?
Right.
Above Lean, below Lean. Is that a joke? I don't know. It's a very European film. You know, often when you're talking about the Oscars, I do this mental game in my mind where I'm like, okay, could this guy have directed this film and could someone else have directed that film? I think Minghella was the perfect, or Minghella, however you pronounce it. I've heard different ways. I think he was the perfect director for this. I don't think an American filmmaker could have made this.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. It's just having the right perspective, cast, and lens on a subject matter really does matter. Like having an American director tell a very European story doesn't always quite work, but it absolutely worked here to have that right perspective.
Italian heritage, British citizenship,
Canadians.
The author is Sri Lankan, Canadian. Minghella really does deserve a ton of credit. The David Lean thing is real. This is basically David Lean meets like a Merchant Ivory production from the early 1990s. He, of course, also wrote the screenplay. You know, he adapted the novel. And so you haven't read it, right?
No, I haven't. I have not.
Everything that you were reading about it and saying in the production history earlier is true. I have read it. It is a pretty fragmented book. Now, I read the book after I saw this film, just for some perspective. But I mean, my first reaction to finishing the book was, I cannot believe they made such a great film out of this. It is a pretty lengthy book, and it has the same nonlinear stuff in it. And there's sections of it that are just poetry. It's pretty opaque.
I was reading that it mentions Hiroshima in the book.
It does. Yeah, it does. Which I think they wisely left out of the film. I don't think that would have added to anything here.
Yeah, that's a totally different point.
It is. It's the whole thing is kind of like a memory, you know, kind of like you see in this film. Like part of it's in the present day, part of it is told in flashback. I wouldn't call it a page turner, but it is a very rewarding read.
I had a question for you, knowing that you've read the book. Is it ever presented that Almasi is a bit more unreliable as a narrator, or is it just a lot of it has to be interpreted?
I wouldn't say that he's presented as an unreliable narrator. If I'm recalling correctly, and we're going off, like I read this 20 years ago, so bear with me. He does a similar thing to what he does in the film, where he is intentionally withholding information out of regret and, you know, shame and guilt. But I wouldn't say that makes him an unreliable narrator.
Yep. That's fair. I was just wondering if maybe there was something more around, and he was on opium all the time, and
no, I nothing that I can recall like that. But the point I want to make is, like, you know, I almost want to say this film should have won more Oscars, because I'm kind of stunned this didn't win adapted screenplay. Like, this is, of all the novels that I have read that have been turned into film, which is quite a lot, this is up there for me in terms of like what would be the most difficult to adapt. And, you know, he's not a director that people talk about much anymore. number one, he's dead. He died young. He was only in his 50s. I think he passed away in like 2008. Some like complication from surgery or something, if I'm remembering. But he didn't direct a ton of films. But what a deserved Oscar win for directing here, because think about all the different things that he has to do in this film. And I wrote down 2 examples for you of why I think this is such a brilliantly directed film. There's a lot of drama in here, obviously. That goes without saying. But good drama, and this is something you and I have talked about the entire history of this podcast, you need tension. Bad drama doesn't have any tension. We basically know what happens to Almashi, right? So you'd think that would eliminate a lot of the tension, but he generates tension in a lot of other ways. You know, you get the scene where Kip shows Hannah the frescoes in the cathedral, which is just beautiful. It's like wonderful first date stuff. And that's like romantic tension.
Right.
Which is really well done. It's one of the best scenes in the film. And then you also get the scene where Kip is defusing the bomb. That's like legit edge of your seat shit. I mean, I've seen this movie a few times. It's Hurt Locker stuff. Like, you've seen this a few times too. Like, you still think he's going to die, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Like when he drops the pliers into the muddy water, that's like war movie stuff. Yeah. And my point is like Minghella does both of those things equally well.
And particularly for the second part, he knows how to present it as a danger, not just because, like, he's telling you, oh yeah, he's looking for bombs. You've already seen the repercussions of those mines and people dying.
And we've already established everybody that Hannah loves blows up.
Dies. Yeah. Yeah. It's true. I could see this being an SNL skit.
Did you see the Billy Crystal Oscars intro from this year?
No, I didn't.
He is in burned makeup, flying a plane.
Ah, goodness.
That's
and
pretty good.
The joke landed. That's great.
It did. He hosted a lot of Oscars. They weren't all going to be equally successful. But yeah, I just, if anyone isn't familiar with Minghella's work, definitely check him out. The stuff that he did before this is really good. Like Truly, Madly, Deeply is a really good movie. And he followed this film up with The Talented Mr. Ripley, which is outstanding.
Yeah, works with Jude Law a lot, which is great.
Yes, and have you seen Cold Mountain?
Of course, Nicole Kidman.
Yeah. Underrated movie, I think. It's kind of forgotten now. It's another, you could call it Oscar bait, but I really like it. And look, for the record, Oscar bait doesn't mean bad.
Yeah, it doesn't mean bad. I think that there's a lot of merit around these dramas and the tension built around them, and as long as they're done well, I think, yeah, it's a great category of film.
When was the last time you'd seen this?
Last time I saw this, it wasn't too long ago. I want to say it was, I do remember at the time it was because I was watching more Seinfeld and it got brought up.
Okay. So you had probably a little bit better memory of it than I did. I mean, I knew that this movie won a bunch of technical awards at the Oscars. I knew it looked good. I hadn't really seen this in proper HD. 10, 15 years. I am still blown away by how well made this is. Yeah. This is one of the best directed, best looking films I think we've ever covered on the pod.
Yeah, I think it should not be understated how beautiful the desert looks in this film.
Do you want to talk about the editing first or the cinematography? Because I don't know which one's better.
Yeah, take your pick. Jeez.
All right. Well, we were kind of teasing Walter Murch earlier, so we can start with the editing. Because talk about challenging and setting yourself up for a difficult film to make. Fractured timelines. We have a memory-driven storytelling device. It's nonlinear. There's pretty minimal plot propulsion. It's sometimes it's dialogue driven, sometimes it's image driven. I'm not the biggest fan of flashback style storytelling. Nonlinear storytelling just in general is tricky. And in particular, another thing that really should have worked against this film that didn't, the flashbacks are not all in sequential order. Like one of them's June 1942. The next one is Christmas 1938. That is, you'd think, setting yourself up for failure. And yet I hardly noticed it. I was never confused. It's brilliant. It's brilliantly edited.
Yeah, I'd say the timeline that you presented to me is the only one that really is starkly noticeable, just around how long were they actually at the monastery.
Right.
But otherwise, like, the way the story is presented, it's fantastic. like overall, like it's just an amazing way to tell the story. And I don't think if anyone actually sat down to watch the film, I don't think it's confusing at all.
No, there's over 40 time transitions in the film.
And I feel like each moment feels natural, right?
It does. You scarcely notice it. And when you do notice it, it's beautiful transitions. Like, did you notice? I think it's pretty early in the film. The sand dunes dissolve into the bed sheets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like brilliant.
Yeah, whether it's the lighting is used to really emphasize, are we in a flashback or are we in the current time? It's so smart to not only have the transitions to tell time of where are we in the story, but also just to make it feel like memory is occurring so naturally through the story.
Audio transitions, fingers tapping, music, car engines. It's not just images. A lot of switching back and forth. It really does feel seamless. Walter Murch completely deserved his editing Oscar for this. He's probably the MVP of this movie. I mean, I said earlier jokingly, but also I think he is like the John Williams of sound editors. You know, he started off working with Francis Ford Coppola. He is the first person to ever receive the credit for sound designer on Apocalypse Now. I thought that was pretty cool. He tried his hand at directing with Return to Oz in 1985. That didn't go so well, so he went back to editing.
That was scary.
Yeah. I mean, I actually think it's a pretty good film, but it wasn't a success.
So I agree with you. I think, like, especially now that I'm an adult and I know it can't hurt me, it's a pretty good film, but
it's nightmare fuel.
If it's horrifying, right? It's scary.
Here's some of the stuff that he edited: The Conversation, Godfather 2, Julia, Apocalypse Now. I mentioned he won an Oscar for Apocalypse Now. Ghost, Godfather 3, First Night, The English Patient, Talented Mr. Ripley, Cold Mountain, Jarhead. He's still working. It looks like.
Hey, doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments of just the sound in this film, I think that it's in the beginning where the plane engine is used to introduce the past again. And it marks, like, but then again, plane engines are used pretty consistently as a transition sound. But then it also introduces, like, very heavy moments in the film. So, like, you start to associate that probably in the same way that, like, his character, Almashi's character associates the plane engine, like as a
and it's so simple and it's so natural because that's how memories get triggered. It could be a sound, it could be anything.
Yeah, it's a beautiful use. It also makes me never want to get in a plane.
Certainly not one of those planes.
Not
a tiger moth.
Yeah,
cool name for a plane though, tiger moth.
Cool name, but it looks like that they light up pretty quickly.
Not a lot of armor on those things. And, the fact that Murch edited this digitally, you know, he started off cutting it physically and he switched to the Avid system, which was groundbreaking for the time.
Yeah, but not easy.
No. So when he accepted his Oscar, he thanked Zaintz and Minghella for, quote, protecting the long view. And from what I read in the book, The Conversations, he was the main mediator between Minghella and Weinstein, partly because of the Avid system, because he was able to very quickly, using the computer, show the producer and the director different cuts, like, you know, much faster than he would have been able to do it using a physical system. And it sounds like it was a major reason why we got the film that we got.
Well, thank goodness, right?
Yeah. Great sound movie too. Surround sound movie. Yeah, I was kind of, when you're looking at the Oscar wins, you're like that beat Independence Day for sound, that beat The Rock for sound, and it's like, it's not just volume.
Right.
It's a pretty good mix. He also wrote a book on editing called In the Blink of an Eye. Again, if you're into film stuff like we are, it's pretty interesting read. All right, the cinematography. Shot by John Seale. Not many movies look like this anymore.
Very Lean-esque, but on its own, like, you know, shouts out John Seale.
You're familiar with his work.
Well, who wouldn't be?
Yeah. Once you look up what he did, and if you know, film nerds like us will know the name, but I mean, the average moviegoer certainly aware of his work. I mean,
when does his career start? Like, go all the way back to
the 70s, 60s? Yeah, no, 70s it looks like. But some of the most well-known stuff he did: Witness, Rain Man, Dead Poets Society, The Firm. The Talented Mr. Ripley, the first Harry Potter film, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. That's
It's
not really
fine.
worth mentioning, but you know what is? He's the same guy that shot Mad Max Fury Road.
So, hey, the man knows the ball.
He really does. I mean, this is another deserved Oscar win. The color palettes here, the contrast between, you get
Mm-hmm.
the oranges and reds of the desert, and then you get the damp, a lot of like dark greens and blues in that Italian setting.
A lot of the yellows that I see in this film,
Yeah.
just oof,
It's like
they
watching a
shine.
dream. What a good looking film. You could call him the other MVP of the film. I mean, him, Minghella, and Murch. I mean, this is really lush looking. It's got a grain to it that a lot of just modern films don't. I mean, most modern films are shot digitally, and I know that industry insiders will tell you, Anton, digital is just as good as film. You can get the same look from it, and I know that is technically true, but I feel like unless your DP is a genius, I just don't think digital films look this good. I don't.
It still takes a lot of care to make a digital film look this good, but as its own, like, you don't make them like this anymore.
Yeah, he would work with Minghella on The Talented Mr. Ripley and Cold Mountain. I think he was nominated for both of those as well. Those are both really, really good looking films.
And you can, I challenge people to go back and watch Talented Mr. Ripley. You can see very similar themes around color palettes.
Another really challenging literary adaptation from Minghella, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is even more extreme than this. How do you build a story around a character who is a monster?
What was it? Matt Damon went to Princeton in this film? Or no, Jude Law's character went to Princeton.
Yeah. I was going to say Matt Damon pretends that he went to Princeton.
Yeah, so then there has to be like a series of films where Matt Damon's connected to each Ivy League. If we get
Harvard.
Talented Mr. Ripley in Princeton, of course we have Good Will Hunting in Harvard.
Those are the only two I can think of, but
yeah, we'll find more.
Where did his character in The Martian go to school? Do they say?
You know what? He must have had some Ivy League schooling in The Martian, right?
Maybe. What about Odysseus in the upcoming Odyssey? Where did he go to school?
Brown University.
Brown, okay. TCU. He could have gone to the Library of Alexandria, right? The Library of Alexandria?
Was that like the oldest university?
Could he be a Rhodes Scholar?
I think that we're giving Matt Damon too much credit for wanting to be educated.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Moving through the production, I mean, it also won for production design, costume design, and score. Gabriel Yared's score. Haunting.
Yeah. It's touching.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't really argue the win either. I mean, it's
fleeting.
Yeah, is it a melodramatic score? Yes, but I think it's extremely effective. The main theme is very memorable, very lush, very moving. All right, next reason why this wasn't better or worse. The cast. Rafe Mother effing Fiennes.
Ooh, man.
Is this his best performance?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah. I think there's a quality to this film that I can, after rewatching it, like I feel maybe it's a bit of a bias, but I do feel like he just really put his all into this role.
I forgot how good he is in this.
Like, it's just no disrespect to Conclave, no disrespect to Voldemort.
Schindler's List?
Yeah, it's so different.
Yeah, different.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so different.
In Bruges?
So different. So different.
I think my favorite Fiennes performance, is Grand Budapest. Another Hungarian.
Another different role. I think like what I'm really also trying to get at is he's been in such incredible roles over the years, and each one he just goes up to bat and hits a home run.
Never given a bad performance. He can do what he wants. I think he's a genius. I was going to say he's underrated, but I don't know that he is anymore. I think he is hugely respected by this point. He is, I think, probably one of the 10 or 20 most talented actors ever. I'm blown away by pretty much anything I see him in.
I love also the type of work he takes.
He'll do anything.
He's fine being a side character. He's fine being a villain. He's fine being the heroic lead. He's fine being a morally ambiguous anti-hero.
Like here?
Yeah, but no matter what role he takes, he's fantastic.
This one, by the way, I might agree with you that this might be his best performance, just because I was thinking about the complexity of it. He's basically a complete dick in this film, but he's very believable as the romantic adventurer. He totally sells the heartthrob thing.
Yeah, I think that if he's presenting himself as a heartthrob that, again, is morally ambiguous, ethically, everything that he's doing is just terrible, right? But
eventually, yes.
Yeah,
he doesn't start off that way.
No, but like, you have to give credit to Ray Fiennes for being able to create the character sympathetic, and that's the true challenge.
He really does manage to be sympathetic, you're right, and he shouldn't be. He is such a great example of an actor who can, what's the phrase, speaking with your eyes?
Mm-hmm.
When he starts dancing with Catherine, he's staring into her soul in a way that not many actors could pull off. And then, of course, he almost has to play two roles, because he also has to be Freddy Krueger Almashi, which is kind of a different character.
Yeah, the look you see in his eyes, if there was ever like a 1,000-yard stare, the guilt he feels, the probably feeling trapped.
Well, that's where the sympathy comes from, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard not to feel bad for a guy who gets burned up like that. I mean, he gets incinerated.
Right.
The film never asks you to like his character, only to understand him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little bit more complicated. And I think why this is this film is not for everyone.
And it's the writing, I would say, that allows you to follow through to the story, but it's the execution of the actor to convince you, like, this is the character as his whole.
Yeah.
And I think that we understand the character because of his acting.
Yeah, for sure. He manages to be magnetic too. I mean, like when he's holed up in that monastery burnt to a crisp, you really do believe that all those people would be wanting him to tell them his story.
It's also not the first time we've been presented with a character in the film being horrifically burned as being a major plot point. But the difference is, in this film, it's presented in a way that you build sympathy for the character, versus in Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, please. That burn makeup.
Yeah.
You'll like this bit of trivia. It was done by Jim Henson's Creature Effects Workshop.
Gotta love Jim Henson.
Took 5 hours to apply every day. Fiennes insisted on doing the full body treatment even when he was only being shot from the head up.
Dedication.
Sure, that pissed off the makeup crew, but
I'm sure actually it I'm sure the makeup crew love that because they get paid hourly.
Yeah, perhaps. Maybe.
He's like,
Harvey Weinstein didn't like it.
No, like Ray Fiennes like, all right, I'll tell them I want full body makeup, but I want a percentage of the cut.
Full body. 13 years it's been. Kristen Scott Thomas as Catherine Clifton. I would say for us Americans, this is probably the highest profile role she's been in. She is a much more prolific performer across the pond. You know, she is, I think, very well known in the UK and Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's great here. I mean, her and Fiennes have great chemistry. This was definitely the peak of her career, not just for that reason. But remember, she was also in that really small role in Mission Impossible in the opening of the film. Again, like with Almashi, you have to sympathize with her, and yet she's making a lot of mistakes here. She shows up to his apartment, remember?
Mm-hmm.
She initiates. I mean, he pours it on pretty thick, but she does initiate the affair. Not that it really matters at that point. Kind of like Michael Douglas in Fatal Attraction. You know, you have to root for her a little bit. That was a little bit different, but and then I mean, I think the star of the show here really is the person that won the acting Oscar here. Juliette Binoche as Hannah grounds the film. She's the moral center of the film. If her performance doesn't work, the film doesn't work.
I love how we're presented to her character as down to earth, caring in her own way. Like, it's very touching. Like, what was it? The soldier was like getting a kiss from you would really like make my day, and she kisses him. But then you can see how she reacts when every soldier asks for a kiss too.
Well, she can't kiss them all.
Can't kiss them all, but I think it just grounds her character as very human. and yeah, the moral center.
Should she have won Best Actress as opposed to Supporting Actress? Because Kristen Scott Thomas was nominated for Actress. You could make the case Hannah is the bigger role.
I think Hannah is the bigger role. Absolutely.
The Oscars are weird like this, though.
Yeah.
This happens kind of a lot. Yeah, the Oscar makes complete sense. I mean, I think she's the best performer in the film. That scene where she's saying to Willem Dafoe's character, "I'm in love with ghosts." I think that won her the Oscar. I mean, she's outstanding in that.
Killing. Yeah.
She would have probably been a better known actor in 1996 than Kristen Scott Thomas. That's probably why she's credited ahead of her, actually. She's a very accomplished actress, primarily in Europe. She's very, she's just not in a lot of blockbusters, but she is really famous over there. It's really nice to see her rewarded for this, much to Lauren Bacall's surprise at the ceremony. And I wanted to give her a shout out too, because she is the lead in one of my wife's favorite films, Chocolat.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, and she also bizarrely popped up in that Ghost in the Shell remake.
That's also very true.
Yeah, you think she should have been nominated for that too?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you agree with me saying that as good as Fiennes is, and he's amazing in this film, I think Binoche winning is deserved.
I do think it's absolutely deserved. It's especially the way the character is written. You don't need, like, in a lesser film, this is a character that's just more of a along for the ride kind of thing. But you need a lot of emotional depth to be this character.
There's a lot to it.
Because there's the weight of the people around her dying, the weight of caring, like volunteering to take on caring for this man in a monastery, accepting and embracing falling in love again. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of layers to this character that it's not a walk in the park.
Moving through the rest of the cast, I was shocked Willem Dafoe didn't get nominated.
Yeah, that is shocking.
This is one of his better roles.
Yeah. Because he also wasn't too far away from Boondock Saints with this film.
Very different role.
Very different role. But yeah, like it's like kind of around the same era.
He might have been the best known actor in the film in 1996. Because if you look at where everyone else was in their careers, Fiennes had been in Schindler's List, but I wouldn't say he was a superstar yet. Kristen Scott Thomas wasn't really known to American audiences. Juliette Binoche was bigger in Europe. Willem Dafoe was pretty established by this point. This very easily could have been a cheesy role for him, and he manages to sell it. And he does Tortured so well.
He does Tortured great, which doesn't shock me.
He gets tortured really well in this film, or very horrifically. But again, that scene with Hannah, you think he's a saint because of the way he looks. I'm one of his ghosts and he wouldn't even know it. Ask your saint is, ask him who he's killed.
But he is the spirit. He's the spirit of vengeance, really.
He is, and it's another one of those B plots that could have gone wrong, and it's perfectly integrated in the best way. And then his decision, he essentially he comes there determined to kill Al-Mashi, and he doesn't. He forgives him.
Which is just excellent writing, but again, it's the actor's job to convince us that it's true.
Okay. For one of the most famous romantic films of its era, this has some of the most shockingly violent scenes I've ever seen in a film.
Oh, God.
The major who takes thumbs scene.
Ugh.
I was not prepared for that when I first saw it.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable.
Jürgen Prochnow is the German interrogator and is the perfect example of that phrase, there are no small parts, only small actors. He is in this film for, what would you say, 3 minutes?
Yeah. What does he say? Like, let's just tell me the information and we can just get out of here.
Yeah.
Like
name for a finger. 10 names.
Very casually, right? Yeah. Just terrifying.
Are thumbs fingers? It's... what a memorable, in the worst way possible, it's one of the most memorable scenes in the film. Dafoe's acting in that scene is possibly the best work I've ever seen him do. You can just feel the panic in his voice.
Yeah, you can see he's exhausted. He's been tortured for hours.
Right. Imagine how hot it would be in that room. Prochnow's character, he's like, I can't stand this heat.
Yeah, no,
it's nuts.
It's just, and he's emphasizing it to just continuously get into his head to break him down. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that scene's horrific.
Even now, I've seen this movie a few times. It's you almost want to skip it, but the acting's just you watch it.
Yeah.
Colin Firth shortchanged here. Pre-leading man Colin Firth.
It's really funny just because this was pre-leading man Colin Firth, and I remember with a rewatch when you first see when you first see him and his wife land and they get out of the plane. I'm like, wow, this dude really looks like Colin Firth. And then I'm like, oh right.
Oh yeah, it looks a little bit like Colin Firth in A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, he did. I say this with the most respect. Colin Firth has fluctuated with his look over the years.
Yeah, good role for him though, nevertheless. And then Naveen Andrews as Kip. I really like the performance. He doesn't have a ton to do, but he makes the most of it.
Kip's pretty badass.
He is, yeah. And then, I mean, all the dialogue in this film, there's no big speeches or anything. It's pretty weighty dialogue, but it all sounds pretty natural. There's some stuff that maybe you could say is corny, but I think is pretty deep. Like the heart is an organ of fire. It's memorable. It really is.
Yeah, it's on paper there's a lot of stuff that could be very corny or be very cheesy, but it's the work of the art as a whole or the actor's job to execute it right. And everything here was executed right.
All right. This is something we do on every Worst Best Picture winner episode. The actual question, should it have won Best Picture? This is the last and final discussion point. In the beginning of this episode, when I was introing the film, I mentioned that 1996 is one of the biggest outliers for the Academy Awards. Other than TriStar, aka Sony, with Jerry Maguire, none of the major studios were represented at the Best Picture category. And so the nominees were this film, The English Patient, which is a Miramax production. It's Disney owned, but it was operating as an indie prestige label. We had Fargo by Gramercy Pictures, which is a division of Polygram Entertainment, or it was at the time. Secrets and Lies was made by a number of production companies, including October Films. It's an indie. Shine was a Fine Line Features production. That is a specialty arm of New Line Cinema at the time. And then, of course, Jerry Maguire, which was made by TriStar Sony. I will go first, Anton. This is possibly a very hot take. I think this was a fully deserved Best Picture win. And I say that with full knowledge of, yes, I understand Fargo and Jerry Maguire were also nominated. I think this is a better film than either one of those. I really like Jerry Maguire. I think it's an excellent film. I love Fargo. I think Fargo is one of the best films of the 90s, and I think Fargo is a masterpiece, and I still think The English Patient deserved to win Best Picture.
I agree with you that Fargo is one of the best films of the 90s. It's one of my favorite films. It's so hard to choose between which should get the award because you dissect both films. There are a lot of incredible things about both films, but especially looking at this film and what it's able to achieve and also the slander against it over the years. Between this and every other film that was released that year, I get it. I totally get it. And that this is a very well-deserved Best Picture winner.
You agree that?
Yeah. But I mean, as a personal, for me, Fargo is more rewatchable.
I agree with you there. Fargo is a more entertaining film than this. But I think, considering how challenging the source material was to adapt, and how well acted this is and just how well put together this film is, I think it's deserved. And look, we always have to remind ourselves the Oscars are not supposed to be legacy defining. It is a snapshot of the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's where my love for Fargo, it's like, I was telling you even before the recording, it's like, well, the Coen brothers basically are the DNA of that film. It's an American-made film, and you know what? I think in its own regard, it's incredible for being able to create, being able to be created as itself, in a vacuum. But this film, just so much respect, and it's gotten so much slander. I just can't stand for it.
Yeah, I feel like we have to carry the torch for this because I really do read so many negative things about The English Patient online. None of it's deserved. I also think this is a great Oscar win for the legacy of Anthony Minghella,
Mm-hmm.
who, died well before his time. He was a great filmmaker when he was alive. And, all due respect to the Coens, they got their due a decade later with No Country for Old Men.
Which was an adaptation of Cormac McCarthy, of course.
Also a very challenging source material.
Very challenging source material.
And that was interesting because if you remember, that novel was brand new. That basically came out, and then I think the film came out like a year later.
And we all know how that turned out.
Is the film possibly better than the book?
I've read the book.
Same.
And it's
pretty
incredible what they've been able to do.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty great. Yeah. It's not even the film where I think they were able to do a lot with not a huge book for Cormac McCarthy. If anyone's ever read The Road, it's a short book, but it's my God, that's terrifying.
That's tough. The film was tough too. I think it's good, but I didn't love it.
So the book takes you have 2 pages in the book and you're scarred forever.
Yeah. You're scarred from the movie too, I think, too.
Yeah, but
that wasn't the Coens, right? No,
that was a different director. But shouts out Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah. He knew how to challenge the reader.
Yeah. Blood Meridian will never be made into film.
They've been trying for a long time. When did that come out? The 70s?
Yeah, and it's just unfilmable still. It's still on that list.
You know what? I wanted to talk about this on another episode, but I can mention it now. I mean, they are releasing an adaptation of Neuromancer on Apple TV. It's going to be a series. That was considered unfilmable for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm nervous.
I'm very nervous. But you know what? Apple TV, I'm actually my perspective on them is shifting. Out of all of the major streaming studios, I think that's the only way we can look at them now. They're the one that lean more towards prestige film and prestige series. More so than they're at least carrying the mantle that HBO once had.
Yes, that's a really good point. I'm more confident about Apple than I am if it were on Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah. Oh, Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix.
We're just waiting for you to ruin the Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, Paramount Plus. No thanks.
Another point in The English Patient winning Best Picture's favor. It's the Oscar hangover effect, and I think this film almost needs the Oscar wins to be discussed in a way. Like Fargo didn't need to win Best Picture to be remembered. You know what I mean?
Right. It's still so well regarded.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Weinstein backlash. We don't have to get into that too much because there isn't a whole else we could say about it at this point. The Miramax chokehold over the Oscars generated a lot of reaction from the public and the industry.
Yep.
It is not fair to hold it against this film. Anything to add before we wrap this up?
No, I think we really said quite a good amount about The English Patient.
Please go first then and give your rating.
We've discussed atypical films, and I think this goes in that category of a romance film presented atypically. And for a film in the category of worst Best Picture winner of all time, it's, again, baffles me the amount of slander that this film gets. Or if anyone's been paying attention to the films that we've been talking about on the series, there's so much quality to any film that gets nominated and that ends up winning. There's quality. I feel like this film especially deserves everyone's time because it rewards you for the time that you take to invest in it, with just gorgeous scenes, fantastic sound, the performances that really do bring to life these characters that I should not feel sympathetic for, but you end up do. And for these characters that are just really grounded into what makes you smile about humanity. And yeah, it's fantastic. I think that there's so much good about this film that is overlooked because of just some bad press from Seinfeld. And I do encourage folks to watch this. I mean, look, we've talked about Ralph Fiennes quite a bit on the podcast, and if you don't agree that this is his best performance, I think you're wrong. So, and I know Pat's laughing because I don't say that a lot.
No, you don't.
Yeah. But I hold this film in a very, very high regard. For me, this film is an A.
I forgot to bring up something in the Oscar discussion that we can kind of bleed into this right now. This won 9 trophies. I think all of the 9 were deserved from what I know. You could art direction, costume design, like could you have given it to Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet? Sure. I mean, okay. If The Rock or Independence Day or Evita had won for best sound, sure, okay. All of the other ones fully deserved. And you could make a very strong case this film deserved to win more. This not winning Best Adapted Screenplay, I think, was wrong. Billy Bob Thornton won for Sling Blade. This was a far more challenging source material to adapt into a film than that. And I don't even know what that is. Also, Ralph Fiennes not winning Best Actor feels wrong to me. Jeffrey Rush won for Shine. First of all, I don't think Shine's a very good movie. Second of all, if you're familiar with Shine, he's not in the movie that much. He's basically in the first 15 minutes and then the last half hour. The character who he plays is also played by another actor, which, in my opinion, that kind of disqualifies you from the Best Actor thing. Nothing against Jeffrey Rush. I really like Jeffrey Rush. But I agree with you, Anton. I think this is probably Fiennes' best performance. He has to do a lot. The rest of the cast in this is outstanding. This is an excellent film with plenty of stuff to love. I don't think it's a true classic, unfortunately, just because of the popular consensus about it. I consider it a classic, but it seems like a lot of people don't. It's undeserved. The backlash against this film is completely undeserved. This is certainly not one of the worst Best Picture winners. This is one of the strongest Best Picture winners that I'm aware of. Its greatest crime was that it just beat out better remembered films at the Oscars and being made by Harvey Weinstein's company. The English Patient did not age badly. I think audiences in general just lost patience for movies that ask us to sit with discomfort, and there are a lot of uncomfortable things in this film. It is a moving adaptation of the source material. It is rewarding. It is not the easiest watch, and it's not something that I could regularly watch, but I certainly recommend this to anyone who hasn't seen it. It is so much more than just a romance film. It is a World War II film. It is in some ways a thriller. Most of all, it's just a really, really strong drama with really excellent performances from the cast. It's one of the best looking films that we've covered on the podcast so far. The cinematography and the editing and the production values and the score are all like A+ material. This is a film that must be absorbed. I don't mind the runtime. I have nothing but good things to say about The English Patient. I'm right there with you at an A.
Well, what a category, what a fun category, and what a fun episode.
Indeed. That's it for The English Patient. This is kind of a bonus episode that's going to release on the weekend before season 10 begins. So we'll see you next time, and thanks for listening.